Do African immigrants make the smartest Americans? Now, this question may sound outlandish, but if you are judging by statistics alone, you could find plenty of evidence to back up and support that idea. In a side-by-side comparison of the 2000 census data by sociologist John R. Logan at the Monfort Center, State University of New York at Albany, Black immigrants from Africa averaged the highest educational attainment of any population group in the country, and that includes whites and Asians. For example, 43.8% of African immigrants had achieved a college degree compared to 42.5% of Asian Americans, 28.9% for immigrants from Europe, Russia, and Canada, and 23.1% of the total U.S. population as a whole. Again, the total U.S. population as a whole has a 23.1% of the total U.S. population has a degree, whereas 43.8% of African immigrants do, Black African immigrants, and that's higher than the 42.5% of Asian Americans and 28.9% for immigrants from Europe, Russia, and Canada. So the African immigrants are substantially better educated. Now that defies the usual stereotypes of Asian Americans that many people are saying are the only model minority. They like to use that phrase. And by the way, you can look at these images and it's just quite ludicrous that these clearly Black African images are trying, they're in that non-Black people are trying to Shanghai them and claim that they have ownership of this great Black legacy. It's just utterly ridiculous and shameless. But let's stick to the topic. The traditional American narrative has rendered the high academic achievements of Black immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean as invisible, as if it were a taboo topic. They don't want to discuss that. They don't want to deal with these facts because they need to believe something different because, again, going back to the images you're looking at, they want to basically say that it's not possible that Black Africans could have built these great civilizations. They're trying to infer that Black Africans, by definition, by default, are just dumb and certainly dumber than they are, but yet the facts contradict that. They absolutely contradict that. Isn't this ridiculous? I mean, come on. Elizabeth Taylor. I mean, just this is ridiculous. You know, before they tried to denigrate Blackness as much as possible, now they're going out of their way to try to say that these Black people, clearly Black people, are just dark-skinned Caucasians. They look Black, but they're actually dark-skinned Caucasians. They just have a good tan. Anyway, let me stay on point. African-born Blacks comprise 16% of the United States foreign-born Black population and are considerably more educated than other Black immigrants, according to the United States Bureau of the Census. The vast majority come from minority white countries in East and West Africa, examples Kenya and Nigeria, and less than 2% originate from North or South Africa. And that's according to the World Factbook 2004 Yearbook of Immigration Statistics of 2003. In an analysis of Census Bureau data by the Journal of Blacks in Higher Education, African immigrants to the United States were found more likely to be, look at his lips, look at his, I mean, give me a break. I'm sorry, I'm just so distracted. I didn't want you to just listen to my voice, that's why I'm giving you some pictures to look at. But what I'm saying is actually more important than the pictures for now, because there are some important factoids I'm trying to convey to you. African immigrants to the United States are also far more highly educated than any native-born ethnic group, and that includes native-born ethnic groups, native to America, and that includes white Americans. Let me say that again. African immigrants to the United States are also more highly educated than any native-born ethnic group, including white Americans. That's according to Logan and Dean Dixon of 2006, Journal of Blacks in Higher Education. Onwardly, there are numerous sources for this information, and I'm going to refer you to a website that you can check it out for yourself. if you doubt anything that I am saying. I'm basically reading it to you. Some 48.9% of all African immigrants hold a college diploma. This is slightly more than the percentage of Asian immigrants to the United States, and it is nearly double the rate for native-born white Americans, and it is nearly 4 times the rate of native-born African Americans. And that's according to the Journal of Blacks in Higher Education, number 26, page 60 through 61. These people are just as black as they could be. Give me a freaking break. And that is a joke. Anyway, in 1997, 19.4% of all adult African immigrants in the United States held a graduate degree, master's and above, compared to 8.1% of adult whites and 3.8% of adult blacks in the United States, respectively. This information suggests that America has an equally large achievement gap between whites and African immigrants as there is between white and black Americans. Now, I want you to chew on that. In fact, even better, I don't want to keep repeating it, but I want it to sink in. So go to the website, read this for yourself. Okay? I'm going to repeat it again. And this is from 1997. 19.4% of all adult African immigrants in the United States held a graduate degree, and that is compared to 8.1% of adult whites. More than twice as many black African immigrants as adult whites in the United States hold a graduate degree, and 3.8% of adult blacks in the United States, respectively. Again, this information suggests that America has an equally large achievement gap between whites and African immigrants as there is between white and black Americans. Also, the Canadian sociological literature on immigrants also paints a similar picture. However, it is less stark. All visible minority immigrant groups, looks exactly like a typical Ethiopian or Somalian, black. All visible minority immigrant groups, whether they are from the Caribbean or India, do better academically than their native-born, non-visible cohorts on average. Both foreign-born and Canadian-born blacks have graduation rates that exceed those of other Canadians. Similar patterns of educational overachievements are reached with years of schooling and with data from the 1994 Statistics of Canada survey, and that is according to Guppy and Davies, 1998, Boyd, 2002. Also, in the UK, and let me digress from what I'm giving you for one moment to look at these images. This person's just a little bit darker, looks like an Asian than the average white person would be. The typical African American, if they were standing there, they would be the exact same hue as the people in the pictures. But yet they want to tell you that these people are actually this color. They just like using dark colored paint. Although when they did want to portray leucoderms, as they call them, or white Libyans, they would pretty much accurately portray them as being this color in comparison to this. And I can show you some pictures of that. But anyway, let's get back to the point. In the UK, the Commission for Racial Equality conducted an investigation on the admissions practices of St. George's and other medical colleges who set aside a certain number of places for minority students. This informal quota system reflected the percentage of minorities in the general population. However, minority students with Chinese, no, she's not white, she's Somalian. Minority students with Chinese, Indian, or Black African heritage had higher academic qualifications for university admission than did whites. Blacks in Britain from the West Indies had far lower academic credentials than did whites. In fact, blacks with African origins over the age of 30 had the highest educational qualifications of any ethnic group in the British Isles. Thus, the evidence pointed to the fact that minority quotas for university admissions were actually working against students from these ethnic groups who were on average more qualified for higher education than their white peers. And by the way, this is the throne of King Tut. And he went out of his way to show their blackness. And these people want to claim that they're white. Give me a break. Now, according to the report, The State of Working Britain, published by the Center for Economic Performance at the highly regarded London School of Economics, 21% of adult blacks in Britain with African origins have a university degree, whereas only 14% of adult white Britons are college educated. It has also been shown that black immigrants from Africa earn more money than do native white Britons. And that is according to the report entitled The State of Working Britain. It was published by the Center for Economic Performance at the highly regarded London School of Economics. So no, that's not some Afrocentric nonsense, which you would like to call it. These are facts in your face that you just don't want to hear and you want to ignore. So let's just go over it again because I know some of you don't want to hear it. That's why I'm going to read it again. According to the report, The State of Working Britain. I'm just showing you how blacks are doing all over the world. And it is published by the Center for Economic Performance at the highly regarded London School of Economics. It stated that 21% of adult blacks in Britain with African origins have a university degree, and only 14% of adult white Britons are college educated. And more importantly, it also shows that black immigrants from Africa earn more money than do native-born white Britons. Okay? Of the African-born population in the United States, age 25 and older, 86.4% reported having a high school degree or higher, compared with only 78.9% of Asian-born immigrants and 76.5% of European-born immigrants, respectively. And I think that's enough for one video. Have a good day.